Yup, it's Famicom, and today I wanted to do a manga spotlight on the crazed horror mangaka known as Hasegawa M. So, I only discovered Hasegawa this year, and it was one of the craziest discoveries I've had all year in terms of my manga reading journey. So, currently, in terms of his horror manga, he has three out at the moment. We've got Maria is Still in That House, Maria no Sumi Ie, which was published in 2018. And then you had these two, which were both published in 2020. So you've got Ikishini and Death Hotel Volume 1. So currently there's only one volume of this, and I'm not sure if he's released any other manga, well, this year or the past year or anything like that. But what's interesting about Hasegawa M is that he started off as a gag and comedy mangaka. So he made gag comics, which I haven't read because my very first exposure to him was Ikishini, which was absolutely insane. But might as well start from the beginning. So I've read Ikishini and Maria, but I have not read Death Hotel yet. So let's go through the first one chronologically. So Maria is still in that house. Hasegawa M. Here is the front and back, and I do believe, yeah. So inside it, you've got this crazy art. All these like demons and stuff. That's the back. Inside that. All right, so you might be wondering why, or what is this manga about? Well, we start off the story by following this little boy who is a little bit interested in this house. Clearly run down, decrepit. There's probably something wrong with it. And we start the book off with this mysterious suited man here with the glasses. He is asking this detective to help find Maria. And it's a little bit weird because this man here tells the detective that, oh, Maria is somewhere in this house, which confuses the detective a little bit. He thinks, well, if she's in that house, then why not find her yourself? But he's extremely cryptic. There are bad omens popping up all over the place. But yeah, very creepy. And so he's tasked with a job. It pays a lot of money, so he figures out. Well, he figures why not. Goes in, quite a normal house, but there is a big painting of Maria, which I should be careful about. But there are a couple of weird things happening all over the place. Let me just quickly check to see if everything's okay. Yep. But he spots this door. Horrific door. I can't tell if that's blood or scratches. Looks like both. But he decides to enter. And what does he find? Absolutely nothing. The void. But his eyes start to get used to it, the darkness, and something appears out of that darkness. And so the next chapter begins. He closes the door, and this is what he had seen. So, going forward, he tries to call the guy again, but he figures, you know what? He can't do it. So he opens the door, goes in, and this thing appears again, making a pang pang sound. And immediately he walks into a gigantic spike that zooms out and reveals this monstrosity living in this otherworldly dimension that is beyond the door. So it's just roaming this place with spikes all over it. There he is, impaled. And there's this little vision or scene of a girl. And that is how the story begins. Because that was in the past, now we're in the present, and we're following our main character here. This girl who I believe, if I can recall correctly, she used to know Maria when she was younger. And there's just a couple of things that happened over time. But the important thing is her own door at home starts showing these moldy, dark signs. And we know something's up. Something is up. And just a specific detail about her, she's sort of, this is her idol, this girl here. And in a dream, she spots her idol talking to her. Yep, her name's Haruka, our main character here. Meets her in a dream. Emi, oh no, not Emi, Hamitan is the idol's name. But quickly, her dreams get corrupted by the dark mold thing. She's saying here, Haruka, do you remember me? Something like that. And slowly becomes disgusting. And she wakes up. So the mold is starting to infiltrate the house. And here is a vision of the door, the poster, now destroyed by this living mold. Right, and a couple of things happen. Things start to pick up in terms of pacing when we see what we assume to be Maria looking at Haruka, and they introduce a sort of psychic that attempts to ward off the supposedly evil Maria. And this is supposed to be like a prodigy in terms of like psychic powers. So she's tasked to help Haruka try and get rid of this. So man, oh I don't know how to describe, like, it looks very soft the way it's drawn, like the effects at least of the, I don't know, like the background. It's hard to describe, but it's a very distinct style. For Hasegawa M, like I can tell, oh, this is Hasegawa if I see art like that. We'll skip over things. It starts to infect one of the psychics a little bit, and we'll skip over some parts. But essentially, they enter into the door together. So Haruka and the psychic girl. And here we go, her using her psychic powers. The story itself, I'll comment on the story later, but I can definitely say that this was a very entertaining read, very entertaining. So they're inside the void dimension, I'll call it. And a butterfly appears, a shining butterfly, to reveal Maria. This panel alone, honestly, not much scares me in terms of manga, but there are some instances that are creepy as hell, and this is one of them. Just her face, just having that one. If I just zoom in, pretend everything else wasn't here. Just this one panel. Oh, it's so creepy. And they talk to her a little bit. And sorry, I'm like going back and forth with the book. I just want to make sure that it's fine for YouTube. Yeah, fuck it. So they enter and they start seeing bodies everywhere, hanging upside down, everywhere, dead people. And we see, and because we know what happened to the detective, we can guess what happened to the victims. But there you go. I'll just skip over that real quick. Very messy art, to be honest. Sometimes I can't tell what's going on, but for me, it actually works. Like, it's so chaotic that I can't tell what is what, and that shows how like visceral the violence is in terms of what's happening on the page. So it actually works for me that I can't tell what is happening here. This is fine, but here, don't know what's happening, but I can imagine in my head. But yeah, what happens after is that they get transported to another part of the dimension. And so I just wanted to put stop here a little bit because just a little tangent. I guess I prepared for it. But if you look at this background here, this setting, maybe you might be familiar with it. This is because it's a reference to, I'm not too entirely sure how to pronounce their name, but Giorgio de Chirico, their works. So I'll come back to Maria, but I just prepared some other stuff. In terms of their works, I was first exposed to it by some Clarice Lispector books, a Brazilian author. But yeah, I'm just going on a little tangent, but I think it's still related because I'm quite scared by it. So, Clarice Lispector, I was brought onto this author by my teacher at school. She recommended me to read Lispector's The Hour of the Star, which I highly recommend. It's a short story, short book, extremely sad and depressing. But these modern classic editions of Lispector's works, they have, most of them have the Chirico's artworks on them. Right, you can see more examples here. So that's just a little tangent of that. But with the Chirico, I think he is known. Oh, by the way, I should introduce this. This is Moon Tracks by Taiga Tateshi, a very well-known artist, Japanese artist. And the reason why I wanted to open this was because there's another reference to the Chirico's artwork. So this here is titled "In the Beginning There Was Revolution," and so we follow like a couple of planet people, but the main focus is the background. So you can see the iconic arched holes, entrances, very empty space, right? And the reason why I wanted to talk about that was because the Chirico's work is surprisingly quite creepy for me. There's something about the empty space in a lot of his works that scare me. And for Maria, that empty space also works as well. And yeah, despite it being, a pretty weird story at times, it does manage to scare me still, somehow. But yeah, what we essentially enter is another part of Maria's world that is supposed to be representing her sort of childhood. You can probably tell by like um, oh, I just had a Ferris wheel. Yeah, I just blanked a little bit. The Ferris wheel. So that's supposed to show her childhood a bit, and that here is the monster that impaled the detective, just waiting there the entire time. And so I'll skip over a couple of things, but Here you go. Some quite graphic works. But without going into too much detail, it is supposed to be representative of her childhood traumas. That is, Maria's traumas. So it's quite sad and quite violent. And the vision of her and what happened to her sort of explodes into blood, and we get this. So if you follow my Instagram, I've posted about this before. We flip the page, and they enter this hellscape. Crazy, absolutely crazy. I'll just take some time showing all of that detail. They're currently in the Ferris wheel, and the outside transforms into this gigantic hellscape. It is crazy. Haruka is losing it. The psychic tries to, help her out and stuff. But it becomes a whole journey through hell. These two girls as they try and find Maria again. But you'll probably predict that it's not going to be that easy. Definitely not. Weird visions of her pop up, and all these speech bubbles are like laughs, like that sort of thing. They're being tormented by her, and by all these monstrosities opening up, and they all float to. Oh, this is crazy. Having this in person, like this book in person, and seeing the detail, like all of them, all these monsters are floating up into space. Crazy, crazy stuff. Even crazier stuff here. It's like a black hole of a. I don't know, man. I don't know how to describe it. Like you can see as well the these glistening effects, visual effects. So although it looks dark, it's implied that it's shining as well. It looks like a galaxy. Crazy stuff. So I'll skip over. I'll show this. That's the zoomed out version of that panel. But yeah, the detail and the art for Hasegawa is absolutely insane. So the climax happens, and they get transported into this very surreal environment. Again, another part of Maria's mind. Right. Here's the close up of it. Crazy, crazy stuff. I'll move forward a little bit and some more. It's like a coliseum of demons. But yeah, essentially what happens towards the end is Maria tries to sort of she takes over the body of the psychic and tries to communicate with Haruka, but I can't show that because there's a bit of nudity. But what happens is Haruka, oh sorry, not Haruka, the psychic regains control and snaps the body in half to regain her body. And I can't show that. But what happens is we end off with Maria dying, the monster fading, and a memory of Haruka and Maria playing together when they were kids. So that's not the end of it though, because we get a very cryptic ending with the father. No, not the father. Oh yeah, no, he is the father. The father who supposedly abused her, standing naked atop the house, and that is it. And so, before I explain the ending there, here is like a little afterword where he explains how like Hasegawa M, he would like draw every night, and they would combine, his works would combine into like these big pieces here. Like this, for example, you can see the grid lines. He would draw like one every night or something like that, and it would combine to make the hellish landscapes. Oh, my bad. This was 2019, not 2018. Yeah. So what happened at the end of that was we go into Maria's mind and understand the trauma that was inflicted upon her by her father, which is disgusting. Um, and it becomes a case of, is Maria wrong for doing this? She's essentially like a vengeful spirit, killing people because of what had happened to her, and it's implied that she took her own life, and that was what started this whole curse and this whole ordeal of that haunted house. And towards the very end, with the father just standing there like that, extremely, extremely cryptic. To this day, I'm still not sure what it's about. That scene there, but it is quite a sad story actually. But it was still definitely scary for me. Just seeing Maria. Maria is misunderstood for a lot of the story. She is supposed to be misunderstood because we don't understand why she's doing all this and killing all these people until we learn of the past, her past. But yeah, this one was a really good story. Although it was like going around randomly with random psychics popping up. The whole story itself was extremely entertaining and very memorable. So yeah, that was Maria is still in that house. Next, even crazier, is Ikishini. Iki as in like living, shini as in dying. Um, so I don't know if I can show a lot of this because I will explain the plot in a little bit. There's also a QR code that they have for their website. Oh, that's fine. So yeah, you may be wondering why there's a woman in that pose at the start of that. Well, you can probably tell what's happening because that very much relates to the plot. We open the story with essentially a line that says, "If you masturbate, you will die." Craziest opening to a manga ever. And no, this isn't like a degenerate manga. It somehow fits into the story. It's a really weird premise, but it's still pretty gory and scary and creepy in a lot of ways. So essentially, what happens is that our main character, this woman, is tormented by the fact that if she, does it, she will die. Right, and this story is extremely confusing sometimes, but it is still very entertaining. And pretty much she goes crazy a little bit. Our main character is she's riddled with debt because of her parents, but she meets this old man under a bridge one day. He gives a QR code to her, and essentially what it is, after he dissolves, it's a QR code giving instructions for a job that will pay 30,000 yen. And so, because she's got so much debt, she takes the offer, but she doesn't know what the job is the thing. So, extremely dodgy. Her first job, she has to take care of someone who lives in this wardrobe. But I gotta be careful with this because, I cannot show that. Okay, I'll briefly show this. This is the person in question living in that closet. And so, I'll move on a little bit. She's very confused. But for some reason, she's asked to mix her saliva with some other fluids and the food for the woman. And oh man, that is so creepy. It says nothing, and she just eats it. It's disgusting. It's a very disgusting scene, but that is the woman. She's going crazy, and what happens after is, well, we get a flashback of our main character with the body of her best friend. So this will come into play a little bit later. But coming back to the woman, weird things start to happen, and she gets hit in the face with some of the woman's fluids. Some eyes pop out. Extremely weird stuff happens. Like it slithers out of the woman, out of the woman's mouth. Oh man. And that is when, I can't show these scenes, but that is when the whole feeling of wanting to do it, uh, like popping up, but obviously with the threat, with the risk of dying. Right? If she does it, she dies, and she knows that to be true. So she goes on another job to try and pay off her debts. And this time it's with other people, but the entire time she's trying to fight against the urge to do it. And so their job as a collective is, I gotta find a suitable thing. Yep. So they have to, I believe it was dismember the corpse and get rid of the corpse. What happens is well, the corpse is pretty much alive somehow with demons and kill pretty much every worker there with the iconic Hasegawa art style in his demons. Just pretty much dissolve the people. Here we go, more scenes of the horrors that are happening. Crazy stuff. And then a couple of things later, she's still fighting the urge. Some very weird things happen. I've noticed, sorry, I'm not showing anything. I'm trying to find something suitable, but for some reason, this lady who works there also has this. She sucks the disease out of her. This part of the story did not make sense at all. I don't know what this is about. A lot of the story doesn't make sense either. But it's still a very entertaining read. So that's the only flaw I can give it, is that none of it really makes sense. Like they enter a game show next for like the same job, like to earn money, and in the crowd are like demons watching them, and then okay, there's a lot of things I can't show, but maybe if I move over here, show this. Yeah, there you go. Creepy stuff. Creepy stuff. Essentially, a monster just starts killing everyone. Everyone. There you go. More horrors to come. Essentially, they were just pushed into a feeding ring for this monster and other demons. Oop. Yep, can't show that. Can't show that. Can't show that either. Nope. Yeah. I would love to show a lot of these scenes, but it's a lot of nudity. It's a lot of gore. And the thing with the friend, if you remember, from the like earlier in the story, that our main character gets a vision of her friend dying, and it turns out that her friend had the same issue where if she masturbated, she died. And I wish I could explain it. I wish I could explain how it like affects the story after, but I have no idea. It's so confusing. There is no real explanation of anything at all. It just happens, and you're left with it. So I can't really comment too much on that, but all I can do is just show you guys, the art. And oh, I forgot as well. There's this whole thing about her mum was the reason why she has so much debt. So that comes into play too. Everything melts, and what comes after that pun intended, is a big sort of explosion from the the main character. Something happens. I don't know what, but she transforms into this. Don't know how. Don't know why. But it's sick. It's cool. But yeah, and then the story ends with her being in this sort of afterlife. Um, and it repeats again with the next person. I just realized the camera is turned over. Whoops. There we go. But yeah, that was Ikishini. Crazy story. Oh man, it's these two are the craziest reads of this year. 100%. Nothing compares to it. Like the stories themselves very much have a lot of like plot holes, but to me it doesn't matter because they're creepy, they do their job, you're so confused, but you're so entertained at the same time. It's so in your face, so confronting. Highly recommend if you want crazy horror reads that might not see on people talking about. And last but not least, I can't really comment on this too much because this is the only Hasegawa M work that I haven't read. But Death Hotel Volume 1, iconic art style. Here's the back of it. So I've no idea what this is about, and I eventually will get into it. But there is the first page, and I'll just do a flick through of it. So yeah, I can't really explain what this is about, but you can see that very iconic style and art, like the look of his art of Hasegawa. Oh man, I don't know what's happening here. They're in a hospital. Something's happening. Oh, does this remind you of something? This looks like, number one, it looks like a heart, the shape of it. But doesn't this remind you of Tomiya? Junji Ito's Tomiya? Might be a reference to it actually, because this was published 2020, long after Tomiya was published. I think Tomiya was maybe 2013. Well, actually, don't cite me on that. I'm not too entirely sure. But man, the art is so good. Yeah, just got to be careful with a lot of things. No idea what's happening. Hasegawa loves to like have things come out in floods, whatever they are, like demons, devils. No idea at all. But yeah. Oh, I don't know why my camera keeps. Whoop. Yeah, I don't know why my camera keeps moving. Sorry about that. But yeah, this is only volume one. Although this was published in 2020, there hasn't been a continuation of it since. Oh, this is creepy. I don't know what's happening here, but let's get a gradual shift. And yeah, that was Death Hotel Volume 1. So that was the video showcasing all three tankobons I have right now. Sorry for the glare, of Hasegawa M, one of my favorite horror mangaka right now. Although his stories have plot holes, things are weird, don't know what's happening, they're extremely entertaining. So highly recommend it if you want in your face horror. And these were just some of the other books I used for reference in my tangent with the Chiriko's work. So I'll make a video on Tateshi in the future. But yeah, so highly recommend you guys to pick these up. Amazing works. But I'll see you guys in the next video soon. So thanks for watching. Bye.